All right, for those of you that are drawn to leaf number 1 or the yellow leaf, these are your gratitude messages. Those of you drawn to leaf number 2 or the red leaf, here are your gratitude messages. And for those of you that are drawn to leaf number 3 or the green leaf, here are your gratitude messages. And what I recommend is that you, unless you are of the variety that you know instantaneously, when you're drawn to something, you can kind of feel it in your gut. If that isn't you, you may want to just take a deep breath, take a look at the 3 leaves and see which one gives you a tingle or a tug or is really drawing your attention. The other way that you can do this is when you flip this open or when you first kind of saw the thumbnail, which one of these leaves caught your attention immediately. That's another way that you can use these types of readings. It's really, I think, intended for like your gut reaction, all right? So if you need to take another minute, you may want to pause the video so you can make your decision. Otherwise, we will get started with pile number 1. All right, for those of you that picked pile number 1, we have 3 tarot cards and 3 oracles and then a final parting message, which we will look at the end, okay? So let's get the cards flipped over. You have passion, number 11. Rise, passion, rise up high, inflame my purpose, reach the sky. You have parrot, spirit, 45, adding to 9. Watch your words. And you have radio toxic. What can I get out of gratitude from that? Well, we'll just wait and see what we get here, okay? So Radio Toxic says, I don't know if you can see that properly, but this one says toxic environment, emotional vampires. And I think it's interesting that has her hands, you could see this as her hands being in kind of like a prayer type position. And we are talking about gratitude here. So let's see what we get from the tarot cards, and then we will see what kind of messages come through, okay? The 9 of Pentacles, the Devil, or Shadow Dance in this deck, and the 2 of Wands. What I'm getting from these tarot cards is that you have overcome some challenges in the area of if it's the way that you manage your work. Maybe you were a workaholic and you are no longer a workaholic from the standpoint of you've learned how to manage that. You've learned how to balance your work life and your home life. You've learned how to be more particular and take care of yourself better. You have learned how to prioritize what's important so that you don't get stuck in this devil energy of keeping things that keep us bound and keep us tied. And in some instances, for those of you, the extreme case of this, if it's not just like our everyday obligations, family, work, so on and so forth, the devil can always point to things like addiction or substance abuse. So for some of you who chose leaf number 1, you may have had some addiction challenges in the past, but it looks like that you have overcome them. And I would say that is definitely something to be grateful for, right? So whichever variation you are here, whether it's finding work-life balance, spending more time with family, or finding a balance between how much time I spend with family, how much time I spend with myself, and how much time I spend at work, right? So a lot of us, especially those of us that have families and children, that is quite the thing to balance, right? And juggle. And often we're juggling more than two things, right? And so the gratitude that I see here is that you have successfully learned how to navigate that. You've probably gone through some trial and error, and you are now at a place where you can say, I can take this on. No, I can't take this on right now, where perhaps in the past that was more challenging for you. All right, that's what I'm getting from this. And so if we take a look at these oracle cards to get you some additional messages and thoughts related to gratitude, this radiotoxic is really kind of pulling me into this devil energy. And so I'm wondering if this is kind of more of a reinforcement that you once upon a time had put yourself into situations and or just because of the number of obligations and things that you had going, that it was not healthy for you. All right, so toxic environment, meaning the things that we let in from the outside, right? Whether that's work commitments, volunteering commitments, any of those types of commitments, and or substance abuse, right? The things that we let in from the outside, that was once we recognized was unhealthy for us. And now we have found this balance. And so what you have to be grateful for is that you are no longer in this type of energy. You're no longer in these types of environments. You have learned to protect yourself potentially from emotional vampires. All right, people who emotional vampires are people that kind of suck our energy, for lack of a better term, right? And so that leave us feeling drained and uninspired, right? Those are emotional vampires. And it looks like some of you may have found your way out of some of those toxic relationships, which can also be represented by the devil here, okay? So with Parrot Spirit, watch your words. I love that because our words do matter, all right? Our words, what we say, the intention behind them, do put energy out into the world. And so maybe the message for you, for those of you that picked leaf number 1, is through this time, through this holiday season, watching your words could be Parrot Spirit could be a reminder for you, is to say beautiful things. When a parrot speaks, it makes you happy, it makes you smile, right? They're really interesting, their vocals are very interesting, and they always have the sound that they make, right? The sounds that they make, the sounds that they're capable of are pretty amazing. So the inspiration here for me, for you, is to have your words be amazing, right? And that might sound a little cheesy for some of you, but in this time, in this holiday season, when we're practicing gratitude, when we want to be grateful, part of that is what we say, right? How we say things to people. And so if you make it your intention to say beautiful things to people, kindness, we can say like, be kind, be nice, that's fine, right? Of course. But you can also make it a point to speak beautiful words, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean poetic. If you have the ability to be a poet, throw that in during this holiday season. That would be fun, right? For people that know you. Otherwise, when you're making a choice in the morning and before you leave the house and you go out to interact with the world, for those of you that go out and interact with the world, make it a point to say kind, beautiful things, right? And if an ugly thought or an ugly comment comes to you, maybe just choose not to say it. Okay, that's what I'm getting with this card for you. And passion. I really love 11s in general. I find that a very spiritual number. And so passion could be suggesting here for you to reconnect with your spiritual side, okay? So to be passionate for something, right? And for me, I'm gonna lean towards be passionate towards spirituality, towards connecting with spirit, connecting with the universe through this holiday season, in this time where we're supposed to be thinking about gratitude and being grateful. Being passionate toward that, right? And for those of you, I don't know that you would be watching tarot readings if you don't consider yourself spiritual at all, but I suppose that is possible. So for any subset of you that don't consider yourselves spiritual beings, and your passion could just be grateful for the energy that you have to proceed and pursue the things that are important to you, which clearly you've done. So for those of you that aren't spiritual, and this isn't about reconnecting and being grateful for the connection that you have with spirit, perhaps this message can also be for those of you that have been able to accomplish overcoming these very difficult things and maintaining your passion and your drive and your motivation to keep going, especially if it's a substance abuse. If you find yourself in a substance abuse recovery situation, that's a one day at a time, right? Like that's something that you work on every day from now until you are no longer inhabiting that particular body that you're in, right? So like that's something that you work on every single day, and to maintain that drive and maintain that passion for that, right? And for those of you that don't have substance abuse, I think the suggestion there would be for you to just maintain and continue to grow and improve the way that you have already, right? But it's not done, right? So there's always this, we can always grow, we can always improve. And so I think this card may be an encouragement to kind of keep going, even if you have achieved a level of success and happiness with where your life is today, which I am getting from these cards that you have. The suggestion here would be to keep going, all right? I don't want to say don't be complacent, but you know, sometimes we get into a comfortable place and that's what happens. I think it's kind of human nature. We tend to go with the path of least resistance. So keep the passion, keep the momentum going with all of the goodness that you've already kind of figured out how to do here. All right, and so let's get one. For those of you that watched my Welcome to Change Spider video, this was the card that I got as I was kicking off this channel. I pulled an oracle card, and this was the card that I pulled. I love that. So for you, for a gratitude message, I choose to learn through love. And I don't know that you could have gotten to this place of stability and cutting out this toxicity if you didn't realize that you have to love yourself first. That's what I'm getting with this right now, is that we have to love ourselves first before we can, you know, because all this energy is about being kind to ourselves and to our bodies. And you know, and then that extends out to other people, right? But we have to do that, have that level of respect and kindness and love for ourselves first. So I think this parting gratitude message for you, for those that picked leaf number 1, is to continue that, right? To continue to expand and understand that loving yourself is key to loving others. It's key to speaking beautiful things, because when we think beautiful things, we tend to say beautiful things. And if we're in a place of love, if we are truly embodying love in our heart, in our thoughts, then our words will follow, right? And I love that this is color coordinated. It makes me so happy. We have passion and love. So hopefully these messages were meaningful for you and inspiring for you during this holiday season, and will give you something to be grateful for. All right. Thanks for watching. All right, for those of you that picked leaf number 2, let's take a look at your messages. So we have a final parting message here, which we'll look at the end. And your oracle messages are number 15, glamour. Your animal spirit message is 61, turkey spirit. That's very fitting for the season, isn't it? Give with gratitude and grace. Love that. Very fitting. And we also have, let me get that over here so you can see that. Number 45, which adds to a 9. The high road, doing the right thing, loyalty, and ethics. So let's see what we get with the tarot, and then we will come back to the oracle cards, all right? The Lovers, the Emperor, and the Sun. Wow. You have 3 major arcana, leaf number 2. That's pretty amazeballs. So what do you have to be grateful for? I would say a lot. My goodness. Your stability, the clarity that you have surrounding your relationships, who you are as a person. I'm also getting that you've maybe been feeling a little lucky lately. You know, when I practice gratitude, which I do every day, gratitude doesn't have to be huge things. These are kind of really big concepts, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is, it seems to me like you have a lot of really important big things to be grateful for, but let's not lose sight of the little things, right? So grateful that you have a bed to sleep in, grateful that you have clean water and healthy food to eat, all of those types of things, because these are really big. These are huge, right? And so maybe for those of you that picked leaf number 2, when you think about gratitude and what you're grateful for, you tend to think kind of real big picture. So maybe a suggestion here would be, if that is you, maybe a suggestion here would be to remember the little things. You know, I have a comfortable pair of shoes to put on every day. I can take a hot shower when I need to. All of those types of the little things that we take for granted, okay? And so for those of you who have really been in a solid, stable place, who've really learned how to balance their life, that's clearly something to be grateful for. It's clearly something that you've worked on and you've worked hard for, and you're being rewarded for that, right? So I see that with the Sun card, is that you're being rewarded for the work that you've put in. And if you've lost sight of that for some reason, maybe this is a reminder for you to express some gratitude to universe, spirit, whatever your belief system is, okay? Is just to kind of remember that during this season. Well, that's really powerful. All right, let's take a look at some of these oracle cards. So, glamour. Into this mirror, I now see the realms of possibility. What I'm getting from this card is that you may have a knack, those of you that picked number 2, for charming people a little bit. That may be something that comes very natural to you, something that you take for granted because you've always been able to do it, and it's not really something you have to try to do. And that is definitely something to be grateful for, because there are people who really struggle in that department, right? The self-confidence and connecting with people. And so it seems to me that there is a subset of you that picked leaf number 2 that can be very grateful that you have the ability to connect and charm and really resonate with people that you choose to connect with, right? And so I think I don't know that that's an overarching message, but I think that for a subset of you, that may be, again, like I said, a skill or a talent that you've always had, and so you kind of take it for granted. So you could, it's not, I don't think it's conceited if you express gratitude for having this, assuming you're using it for good purposes, right? And you're not using it to kind of use and abuse, that you use it to its highest potential, that, making that assumption, that's definitely something to be grateful for. So I think that this was like for a subset of you, okay? Turkey spirit, give with gratitude and grace. Yeah. So for those of you that put yourselves out there very easily, kind of comes second nature to you, remember, remember during, it's not going to be hard to think about turkeys right now, right? But like, remember that giving with gratitude and grace is us being kind to ourselves as well, right? So we connect with others, and of course we want to give with gratitude and grace to others, but we also need to give with gratitude and grace to ourselves. And there may be a subset of you that picked leaf number 2 who maybe don't practice giving. Maybe you kind of keep to yourself, right? So maybe this is kind of like the opposition here, right? There might be some of you that give freely and willingly and very easily, and then there might be another subset of you who don't, right? Who have a challenge with giving. And so clearly the message here is to remember to put yourself out there, especially during this holiday season where we're supposed to be remembering and practicing gratitude. If this is not something that you do easily or normally, maybe make it a point to give one piece of something to someone each day, right? Whether that's I like your shoes, or you leave a chocolate on someone's desk, or anything, right? Anything like that for those of you that have difficulty with kind of giving and receiving, right? Because typically those of us, sometimes we have a challenge with both. Sometimes we're too heavy on one side. Maybe we give too much and it's too hard for us to receive. So what I'm getting from these 2 cards is that a balance needs to be found here, right? Some of you need to find a balance between giving and receiving equally, and to work on being comfortable with both, right? Trying to even that energy out. the Lovers. The Lovers is all about that, bringing our yin and our yang together into a comfortable connection, into a comfortable whole. That is really what this card signifies. And I'm kind of getting that here. I'm getting that energy here. So there may be some of you who have this kind of push-pull with giving and receiving. And then there's some of you that give way more than you need to, or way too freely and easily. And there are some of you that really have a challenge with giving and or receiving. So I don't know which way this is playing out, but now that I'm kind of tapped, it took me a minute to kind of tap in, but now that I've kind of tapped into this, that's what I'm getting, is that the reminder here, the gratitude message, is to find that balance. Find that balance. I'm going to leave it at that. I think it's really come down to that. And the high road, doing the right thing, loyalty and ethics. I think that some of you have been the recipients of and watched people do the right thing. And if you found yourself in a situation, a challenging situation, and someone kind of stepped up, right? Someone stepped up to help you when they didn't have to. That is something to be grateful for, obviously, right? But again, these things happen in our lives, and yes, we might be grateful in the moment, but then we kind of forget, right? We forget the kindness of others, and we forget the kindness that even sometimes strangers give to us. So during this season, try to work on remembering. Remember those random acts of kindness. This is what I'm getting from this card, is like random acts of kindness. So either do random acts of kindness and or remember those random acts of kindness that were done to you and for you. That's almost, what I'm getting right now is like I could see a family sitting around a table, a Thanksgiving table, and each of them telling a story about a random act of kindness that a stranger did for them, right? Those are beautiful stories, and those are beautiful things to remember. And if more of us went through the world in that way, thinking about how can I help my neighbor? How can I help this person on the street? How can imagine what the world would look like if we did that, right? So I'm bordering on the cheesy here, but I can't help it because that's just what I'm getting. So your final message is happiness is my birthright. Damn straight it is. And I'm going to take this back here because when we started this, I don't know if you can see this properly, let's see. When we started this, I was a little bit blown away by how big these cards are, and how big the ideas and the energies are behind these cards. And so as we started this, we're going to kind of end it, which is, it seems to me that you have a lot to be grateful for and a lot to be happy for. And sometimes we take things for granted. During this holiday season, remember to keep a positive attitude, okay? Because based on these cards, you have a lot to be thankful for and a lot to be grateful for. So I think your parting message, your gratitude message, is to remember to be grateful. And that sounds really redundant because that's what we're doing, but that's what I'm getting from this card. That and not to be ashamed, so maybe that's part of this too, is not to be ashamed of all that you have and all that you've accomplished. You can still recognize and appreciate what you have and still be humble, right? all of us should have what it is that we want and need to be happy, right? That's the American dream, you know, and that doesn't necessarily equate to money and big houses and a Lamborghini, right? Some of us, we define happiness in different ways. So whatever happiness means for you, because you do have a lot to be grateful for. All right, that was a long-winded leaf number 2. I hope you found that inspiring in some way. And I thank you for watching. All right, and for those of you that picked leaf number 3, let's take a look at your messages. So we have 3 tarot cards and a parting oracle message, and then 3 oracle cards that we will flip up right now. So Destiny, all that I shall need to know as I walk shall now be shown. Stag Spirit, take the lead. And Fruitful Labors, number 11. Growth, birth, manifestation, a harvest. Okay, I'm gonna let those sit for a minute, and I'm gonna take a look at the tarot first. The 7 of Cups, the 7 of Swords, and the Queen of Swords. What I'm getting from these cards, for those of you that picked leaf number 3, is that you have learned how to cut things out of your life that no longer serve. And that is really awesome and definitely something to be grateful for, because many people struggle with that. Most likely has to do with a relationship. And that could be romantic, but it could also be a work relationship, or you know, any kind of relationship, a relationship with our family member. It could be any kind of relationship, but I'm getting kind of strong relationship vibe from these cards. So perhaps the majority of you that picked leaf number 3 have really learned how to manage your relationships. And you no longer, by managing your relationships, I mean like no longer keeping people around who are not helping you become a better version of yourself, who are keeping you possibly in a confused kind of state. People that maybe you haven't been able to be honest with, or that you felt were not being honest with you. You have come to a place in your life where you can say, you can call BS and feel confident in standing your ground and standing up for yourself. And so this is a very these cards are very personal. And so I think those of you that might have been drawn to leaf number 3 have recently kind of gone through this finding your inner courage, speaking up, and speaking the truth where perhaps in the past it was a challenge for you. That, or you finally learned that it's okay. Maybe you've always been like that, but now you're like, you know what? This is who I am. This is my truth. And that's it. And now you're comfortable with it. So whichever scenario you might fall in, I think that is absolutely something to be grateful for. I think that's beautiful. So let's take a look at these oracle cards and see if we can get some other messages here. From this card, the first hit that I got was, because I'm getting kind of strong relationship from these cards, I'm getting that a lot of you who picked leaf number 3 have encountered some karmic people and some karmic relationships that have forced you to get comfortable with what we just talked about, which is to not kind of hide your head in the sand when stuff kind of gets icky or ugly, to not just kind of wait in the wings and say, well, maybe they'll change, or maybe this, or maybe that, and like have all that uncertainty. I think that, so for those of you that identify with karmic partners, you could call it soulmate, you can call it twin flames. Everybody labels them differently, and some people have different definitions for those different things. I do, but that's not what this reading is about. So I'm calling all those different variations out because we all define things differently. So if you identify with any of that, and for me, karmic is the big umbrella, okay? So if you feel like you've encountered some karmic people in your life that have really pushed you to grow, because that's what they do. They push us to grow and learn, and those situations are often not very comfortable. And I'm getting that from the swords, right? These situations are often not very comfortable for us. So I think that's the message that destiny is giving us here that ties into this. Maybe some validation for you that these people that you may have either an inkling or that you know, because you're you believe in karmic relationships and soulmates, whatever the case is for you, I think this is validation for you that those people, and as hard as it is sometimes, I've had to do this myself, for people that really hurt us, to be grateful for what we learned from them. All right, so that's the kind of the core message that I'm getting with this, is to be grateful even for those relationships that really hurt us and put us down for a while. All right, maybe we had to retreat for a while. So let's move on to this one, Stag Spirit. Stags are very beautiful, for me, regal type of animals that deserve a lot of respect. And so perhaps your gratitude message tied to Stag Spirit, I think can closely be to Queen of Swords. 100% takes the lead and knows how to take the lead. So this may be more confirmation for you to continue to grow that skill, continue to grow that confidence. And if you've already always had it, like I said, then really learn how to embrace that, right? Because we can be Queen of Swords and speak our truth and still do it kindly and still do it gently. It can be, the Queen of Swords can be awful, right? But she doesn't have to be. So I think the encouragement here is to, when you find yourself in need of, using your inner Queen of Swords, when you really need to speak your truth and tell somebody how you feel with honesty and directness, to A, feel comfortable taking the lead in doing that, but B, do it with kindness and respect for all parties involved, including yourself, right? So leadership, whether it's a leadership in a relationship or leadership at work, requires a level of, I think, self-respect. Because if we don't have self-respect, then others, it's difficult to have others respect us back, right? So that's what I'm getting here with this. And fruitful labors. Growth, birth, manifestation, a harvest. I believe for those of you that picked leaf number 3, you have already started to see and or reap the benefits the rewards of learning how to kind of cut out the things that no longer serve, right? Learning how to speak your truth in an effective way, learning how to understand what your heart needs, and then speaking that with honesty and kindness for yourself and others. So I think if we're talking about gratitude here and what you have to be grateful for in this holiday season, it's that you now, if you haven't already, you will soon start to see the benefits of, I'm going to call it tackling. For some reason, the word tackling is coming to me, of tackling this in your life, right? Getting comfortable with this, whichever side of the coin you fall on. Whether it's been difficult for you or whether it's come easy for you, I think there's still challenges to be worked out here. And I think that you've already started to kind of grapple with them, and you've already started to work through them. And you probably already have started to kind of see the benefits of getting a handle on this energy, this communication energy, and speaking, getting in touch with your heart energy and speaking your heart energy, is what I'm getting here. Okay. All right, let's get your final parting message from the universe. I recognize that I have chosen fear, and I choose again. I choose love. That's really beautiful, because when we're in swords energy, there's a lot of like fear and apprehension and stress that often goes along with the swords energy. And you did get 2 swords, and the cups card that you got is a cup that kind of lends itself to not having clarity, some confusion, uncertainty, that kind of thing. Actually, both of these cards have a level of uncertainty. All right. And so when we are in uncertainty, fear often kicks in for a lot of us, right? Most of us don't like uncertainty. So I think, again, this is confirmation for those of you that are grappling with and or have grappled with this energy of learning how to communicate your truth, that in the past, your reactions may have been led or driven by fear. And now, because you've started to do this work or have done this work, you recognize that that was not helpful. That coming from that place of fear was not helpful. And so now, especially through this holiday season, you can choose to see situations instead of through a fear lens, through a love lens. And that may sound cheesy for some of you. And I use that word a lot. I like the word cheesy because once upon a time I would have thought that was cheesy too. But now I know better, and I know that it makes a humongo difference when we shift our perspective. And sometimes it's a slight little tweak, and it's like, no, I'm not going to live in this place of negativity, i.e. fear. I'm not doing that, right? I'm going to choose a healthier way. I'm going to choose a healthier way to look at the situation. And when we do that, solutions come, right? And we feel better about ourselves, and we're able to be better with other people. So I don't want to start lecturing. That was almost a lecture. But I love this message. I really do. I recognize that I have chosen fear, and I choose again. I choose love. So I hope that most of you found this message inspiring and helpful, and that it will give you something to be grateful for during this holiday season. Okay? Take care.